Welcome to St John's for the weekly update as we move through the season of Advent. I'm once again in the North Aisle with this wonderful exhibition of David Binn's paintings called Saints in the Suburbs. The two pictures that I'm surrounded by today represent the visitation, when Mary visited Elizabeth, her old cousin, who was also pregnant with John the Baptist. And on this side, a picture that we haven't had in the exhibition before, and that's Mary dancing on the beach as a way of representing the Magnificat. My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord, which is the focus of our worship for the fourth Sunday in Advent, so just over a week's time. Copies of monthly notices for December are available on the Cathedral website and also available here in the Cathedral in hard copy. Our monthly notices is the best way to keep track of all the things that are happening here in the Cathedral, particularly as we approach Christmas and all of those wonderful late Advent and Christmas services come our way. Speaking of which, on Sunday evening, in place of Evensong, so at 7 o'clock rather than 6 o'clock, at 7 o'clock on Sunday evening, we have a wonderful offering called Chorus Angelorum, which is a reflection in four movements that take us through some of the themes of Advent and into Christmas that will be presented by the boy choristers, who are in absolute top form at the moment. So give yourself a treat and come along on Sunday evening at 7. Other things that are happening in the life of the Cathedral and the community and things we care about. On Friday afternoon there is a vigil protesting the submarine contract and the AUKUS agreement in Radcliffe Square. I've been invited to be the MC. Over the last few months I've been on a panel that's been looking at submissions that explore Australia's relationship with the superpowers, particularly with the US, and I've been blown away by some of the detail that's come out in the submissions, and I've just finished writing my part of the report, and so when that comes out I'll draw your attention to it, because there's a lot for us to think about in terms of who we want to be as a nation, and certainly the submarine contract doesn't seem to be assisting us in that act of self-determination. So if you hold that sort of concern, please come along to Radcliffe Square at 4 o'clock tomorrow, Friday. And then to revisit the theme of Christmas, on Tuesday evening at 6 we have our Blue Christmas service. The Blue Christmas service is a really important offering because at one level Christmas seems to only be about joy and happiness and family, and we don't need to pause long before we realise that for many people it's a time of great stress and trouble. There are people who are very alone at Christmas time. There are people who are sad because of memories. There are people whose relationships with family have fallen apart. And the Blue Christmas service looks at the Christmas story and finds that it speaks to people who are in distress or sad. After all, the Holy Family had to flee for fear of violence. So the story really does speak to the whole of our living. It does capture that sense of joy and family that we love to celebrate, but it also celebrates the complexity. It also acknowledges the complexity of life, and so it speaks to each of us in our sadness as well as our joy. So that's Tuesday at 6 p.m. This coming Saturday we have the United Nations Association Young Professionals. They will be offering yoga. A reminder that if you want to join them, please book online. You'll find details on the Cathedral website. And then the UNAA is also with us on Monday evening as we celebrate United Nations Human Rights Day. So we're offering an event here on Monday night at 6. The big issue for us to explore at the moment is that of vaccination status and attendance at the Cathedral. The government has actually left it up to churches to make their own decisions, and has advised that if, as you make that decision, you should undertake a risk assessment. So we've been in the process of doing that for some weeks. Lots of people have been talking to us about vaccination status and attendance at the Cathedral. The conversation is still ongoing in that the policy is still being finalised, but where we are looking like landing is that the Cathedral will require people to be vaccinated to attend. The main reasons for heading towards that decision are that first and foremost we have to provide a safe place, and so the question we've been asking is, what is the safest approach? We know that people who have COVID will come to the Cathedral. That's the great thing. The big thing that's changing in the next week is that COVID will be with us. We've lived a life, a dream life really, over the last few months, because COVID has rarely been in Queensland, and it has certainly not been widespread in community. That will change this week. And so we know that people with COVID will end up coming to the Cathedral. And so the question for us then was, how do we make it safe given that? The medical and scientific evidence shows us that with the Delta strain, someone who is doubly vaccinated is likely to pass the virus on to just one other person, and that's usually a member of their household. An unvaccinated person with COVID is likely to pass it on to 8 or 9 other people. And so it doesn't take much of a thought experiment to think about what it would be like if an unvaccinated person with COVID was to come to the Cathedral. It would be the beginning of a super spreader event. So that is the main frame through which we are approaching this. We're also taking into account that we live a very privileged life in this country. We've had the privilege of having access to vaccines. You don't need to look at too much of the world news to realise there are people throughout the world who have not been given access to the vaccine because of poverty and other limiting circumstances. So we are an incredibly privileged people because we've had access to the vaccines. We're also incredibly privileged in that we have been given the choice as to whether to get vaccinated or not. There is no compulsory vaccination program. And so as people make that decision, they're exercising their privilege in this country. It's a privilege not to get vaccinated. It's a privilege to be vaccinated. And so as we look at it, creating a safe place requires people to exercise their privilege in a way that looks to the common good. And on the website you'll find an article by Patrick Parkinson, the Professor of Law at UQ and a very convinced Christian, that looks at vaccination through the lens of the common good and the Christian faith. So taking all of that together, we are heading towards the idea that the vaccinated can come to the Cathedral and the unvaccinated will be able to be part of our life through our online services. The Cathedral offers worship online, it offers study groups online, it offers coffee online, which means that people will be able to participate fully in the life of the Cathedral, whether they're vaccinated or not. It's just the mode of attendance will be dependent on how we have exercised our privilege. As I say, that policy is still in the stages of being formalised. It needs to go to the Cathedral chapter to be endorsed. So if you have some scientific evidence that you would like to contribute, if you disagree with that logic, please pick apart the logic. And if you have some evidence that you would like us to consider, and even some human rights discourse ideas you would like us to consider, then please do be in touch in the next few days, and we will genuinely consider anything that might persuade us to act otherwise. Our main intention is to ensure that as many people as possible get to enjoy the Cathedral and experience worship, whether that's in person or online. We're very much looking forward to the idea that Christmas in Australia will be very different to Christmas in, say, the UK or Germany, where because of low vaccination rates, they're looking at a fourth wave. Hopefully our vaccination rates will continue to rise and we will avoid that fate. We can actually see our trajectory written in the fate of other nations. And, I think our authorities are doing a good job of taking that into account. And in terms of birthdays this week, what a list we have this week. We say happy birthday to Anthony, to John Carr, to Mary Roberts, to Marco Hammer, to Terry Albone, Eleanor Mancini and Paddy's son. Happy birthday to all of you wonderful people. So thank you for your contribution to the life of the Cathedral. If you do need help getting your vaccination status, a reminder that the staff here at the Cathedral and the clergy team will help you get your status onto your phone or help you access a printed copy from the authorities. Quite a number of people have made use of that offer in the last few weeks. It's been really great. Peace be with you.